He was the kind of actor who didn't just play a role. He became it. When Heath Ledger put on the Joker's makeup in The Dark Knight, the world saw a performance so magnetic, so terrifying, that it blurred the line between genius and madness. But what most people didn't know was that this role would become his undoing. Before his death, Ledger had confided to close friends that he couldn't sleep, that the Joker had taken over his mind. His notebooks were filled with chaotic thoughts, eerie sketches, and dark reflections that would later haunt everyone who saw them. "I can't stop," he once said. "My head's just too noisy." Behind the smile that earned him an Oscar, there was pain, silent, growing, relentless. Hollywood adored his brilliance, but few noticed the shadows forming beneath it. They saw the laughter, not the exhaustion. They saw a rising star, not a young man burning out from the inside. On January 22, 2008, the laughter stopped. The world woke to headlines that shattered hearts. Heath Ledger was gone, at just 28. The news felt impossible. How could someone so alive, so full of talent, disappear overnight? Yet the truth behind his final days wasn't just about drugs or depression. It was about the weight of perfection, the obsession of artistry, and a mind that dove too deep into darkness until he couldn't climb back out. This is not just the story of Heath Ledger's death. It's the story of how his greatest performance became his greatest curse. Before Heath Ledger became a legend, he was just a kid from Perth, Australia. A boy with a restless soul and an imagination too big for his world. He wasn't raised among Hollywood lights or acting dynasties. He grew up under the vast sunburned skies of Western Australia, where his mother was a teacher and his father a race car driver. From an early age, Heath was drawn to storytelling, not the kind you watch but the kind you feel. In school, he wasn't the loudest nor the most confident. He was different, always searching for something beyond the ordinary. Acting became his escape, his rebellion, and eventually his calling. By the time he was 17, he left home with nothing but his skateboard, a few dollars, and a fire that would not let him sleep. When he arrived in Hollywood, he didn't fit the mold. Too raw, too unpredictable, too intense. Yet that same intensity became his signature. In 10 Things I Hate About You, audiences fell in love with the rebel who sang on the bleachers. In A Knight's Tale, he became a star. But fame for Heath was never the destination. He wanted truth. He wanted to feel everything. Then came Brokeback Mountain. His portrayal of Ennis Del Mar, quiet, tortured, painfully human, redefined what it meant to be a leading man. Critics called it revolutionary. Ledger called it exhausting. The film opened doors, but it also changed the way the world saw him. Suddenly, Heath was no longer the carefree Australian heartthrob. He was the artist haunted by emotion. When he accepted the role of the Joker, he told friends it was his chance to disappear completely, to bury himself in chaos, to explore what humanity hides in the dark. It wasn't just a role, it was an experiment in losing control. But Hollywood has a way of glorifying madness. Directors praised his commitment. Fans admired his darkness. And as the Joker began to take shape, no one realized that the line between performance and possession was already fading. Heath's transformation wasn't only cinematic, it was personal, consuming, and irreversible. The man who had once chased dreams was now being chased by them. First, The Dark Knight felt like destiny. Director Christopher Nolan saw in Heath Ledger something no one else did. Not just an actor, but a force of nature. Ledger didn't audition in the usual sense. He arrived with a chilling confidence, eyes burning with a strange calm, and told Nolan simply, "I know who he is." From that moment, the Joker was reborn. Not as a comic book villain, but as a psychological mirror, a study of chaos, pain, and the fragility of sanity. Heath secluded himself for weeks in a London hotel room, filling notebooks with the Joker's fragmented thoughts. He wrote disturbing lines, glued in photos of hyenas, and scrawled manic phrases that only he could understand. He practiced the laugh for hours, that horrifying, unforgettable sound that felt too real to be acting. When filming began, the crew noticed the transformation immediately. The moment he put on the makeup, Heath vanished. What remained was something terrifyingly alive. Even Christian Bale admitted later, "It felt like I wasn't acting with Heath anymore. It was the Joker." Behind the camera, however, Heath was unraveling. The long nights, the pressure, and his relentless drive for authenticity took a toll. He couldn't sleep, sometimes for days. "I'm on 2 hours of sleep a night," he told the New York Times during filming. "My body's exhausted, but my mind just won't shut off." He tried everything: prescription pills, meditation, long walks, but nothing quieted the noise. His mind raced between scenes, between worlds. One moment he was a devoted father to his daughter, Matilda. The next, a man consumed by the darkest corners of human emotion. Still, the performance was electric. Every take was perfection, every gesture unpredictable. Crew members stood frozen after certain scenes, unsure whether to clap or to breathe. Ledger didn't just play the Joker. He lived him, and the world would soon see the result. When the film wrapped, the cast celebrated. But Heath didn't feel relief. He told close friends he felt empty, that he'd gone somewhere too deep and wasn't sure how to return. His face smiled, but his eyes, those bright, boyish eyes, seemed distant. And as award season approached, the world saw only brilliance. No one saw the exhaustion, the quiet desperation behind that brilliance. In early 2008, while editing the Imaginarium of Dr. Parnassus, Heath confided to a friend that he was barely sleeping 3 hours a night. He looked pale, restless, carrying an invisible weight. The pressure to keep going, to stay perfect, to live up to what he had created, it was all too much. And then suddenly the noise stopped. January 22, 2008. New York City. A phone call. A discovery. And the world froze. The headlines that morning were merciless. Actor Heath Ledger found dead in Manhattan apartment. The world gasped, fans, co-stars, and strangers alike. It couldn't be real. He was 28, on the edge of greatness, his masterpiece still unreleased. But when the truth surfaced, it wasn't the story of a star destroyed by drugs, as tabloids claimed. It was the story of a man crushed by the very standards he set for himself. In the days that followed, reports painted a picture of accidental overdose, a cocktail of prescription medications, sleeping pills, painkillers, anti-anxiety drugs. But those who truly knew Heath understood it wasn't addiction. It was exhaustion, the result of months, maybe years, of chasing peace he could no longer find. Michelle Williams, his former partner and the mother of his daughter, broke her silence with words that still echo. "His family and I watched him become a man who was more alive than anyone else, yet somehow too fragile for this world." Friends recalled how he used to joke about turning the noise off, about finding a way to rest. The irony was unbearable. The man who gave life to chaos on screen died searching for silence off it. When The Dark Knight was finally released, audiences were hypnotized. Critics called his Joker transcendent, unsettling, a masterpiece of madness. He won the Academy Award posthumously, the golden statue accepted by his family through tears. But the victory felt hollow. The applause echoed like a requiem. Behind the glamour, people began asking uncomfortable questions. Did Hollywood push him too far? Was the industry too quick to celebrate suffering in the name of art? Or was Heath simply too pure, too vulnerable, too human for a world that feeds on pressure and perfection? Christopher Nolan later admitted, "I don't think Heath ever imagined how far he had gone. What he did was beyond acting, it was sacrifice." And then there were the notebooks. Chaotic scrawls, sketches, torn pages filled with fragments of the Joker's mind. On the final page, one phrase stood alone, underlined, trembling. "Bye-bye." It was not a suicide note. It was a curtain call. A haunting farewell from a man who gave everything to his art and lost himself within it. There's something unsettling about the way we talk about Heath Ledger today. We call him a genius. We call his death tragic. But beneath those words lies a quiet hypocrisy, because while the world mourned him, it also demanded him. Hollywood glorifies obsession. It rewards those who bleed for their art, who disappear into roles, who sacrifice their sanity for authenticity. We clap when an actor goes too far, and yet we turn away when that same intensity destroys them. Heath Ledger's story isn't just about one man's downfall. It's a reflection of an entire system that confuses pain with depth and exhaustion with brilliance. Heath was not reckless. He was not broken. He was sensitive, deeply, dangerously sensitive in a world that worships noise. His artistry came from empathy, from the ability to feel too much. And that sensitivity, the very gift that made him extraordinary, was also what left him exposed. Some say the Joker killed him, but that's too simple. The truth is, it was everything: the sleepless nights, the pressure to top himself, the silence that followed each performance. Every artist knows that after the applause fades, there's a void. And Heath, more than anyone, felt that emptiness echo louder. Each time, when The Dark Knight premiered, audiences stood in awe. They saw chaos, brilliance, danger. What they didn't see was the cost. Behind that twisted smile was a man trying desperately to find peace. The applause he'd waited his whole life for arrived too late. As legends and secrets, we don't believe Heath Ledger was destroyed by darkness. We believe he was consumed by passion. Flame so intense it couldn't last. His story is a reminder that behind every masterpiece is a human heart, fragile and beating, often alone in the dark. If there's a lesson to take from Heath's life, it's this: greatness should never require self-destruction. Art is meant to express life, not end it. Heath Ledger didn't die a victim of his role. He died an artist in search of truth, lost in the maze of his own brilliance. Long after his passing, Heath Ledger still lingers, not as a ghost but as a feeling, a flicker of rebellion, a whisper of laughter that wasn't entirely human. Every time The Dark Knight plays, every time that haunting smile appears on screen, it feels like he's speaking again. From somewhere between light and shadow, there's a strange beauty in how he lives on. In his daughter Matilda's smile, in the performances he left behind, in the thousands of young actors who still whisper, "I want to be like Heath." They chase that same electricity, that truth he embodied, though few truly understand the cost. Time has softened the pain but not the ache, because Heath's story is more than tragedy. It's a mirror. It reflects every artist who's ever lost themselves in pursuit of something greater. Every dreamer who mistook intensity for immortality. Every human who dared to feel too deeply. When we remember him, we shouldn't only think of the Joker's grin or the chaos he unleashed. We should remember the boy from Perth, the one who loved skateboarding, music, and magic tricks. The one who danced through life barefoot, laughing at everything that scared him. The one who, even at his darkest, never stopped searching for light. In the end, Heath Ledger's greatest role wasn't the Joker. It was himself, unfiltered, vulnerable, and breathtakingly real. Some say legends never die. Maybe they're right. Because somewhere, in the echo of applause that still hasn't faded, Heath Ledger is smiling. And as the lights dim, as the laughter fades into silence, we're left with only one thought. Some stories are never revealed. But now you know.